Hello, everybody. We are live. Isn't this exciting? What'd you think of that intro? Second time I've used that intro. I just love it. My video crew did an awesome job. Aaron, thank you so much for suggesting that I may be entertaining. I think I'm a moron. I'm an idiot. But there we go. We're going to have some fun today. So this session is the next session in our 15-5 format. If you're not familiar with our 15-5 format, it's very straightforward. Here's the quick and dirty of it. 15-5 says every single week, we're going to come at you with 15 minutes of pure content, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. Now, the kicker is that we have 4 formats to 15-5. This is week 3 in the 15-5 format. And in week 3, I have no guests. I'm just by myself, and I'm totally doing a live, unscripted riff on what's going on in the world. And we are totally newsjacking. Trevor, love it. Thank you so much for that. Aaron, I appreciate everything you're doing there. Love it. Bring the comments, folks. Don't be shy. Okay, so we are streaming right now, just so everybody understands, we are streaming at you across all of the various social platforms. So obviously we're LinkedIn Live, we're at YouTube, we're at Facebook, and on LinkedIn, we're on my personal page as well as the company page. But one of the things I will say to you is if you haven't, go to YouTube and subscribe. That way you will never miss another notification. Plus you get all the amazing content that we do here at Agorapulse. Okay, so that's it. The only thing I want to say to you. Okay, so what are we talking about today in our 15-5 format? And what's killing me is that I've actually been using the timer already because I'm going to stick to 15 minutes. So I've already lost 2 minutes on this. So here we go. The first thing I want to talk about is this. Reddit has basically gone dark. Why has Reddit gone dark? Well, this may sound like a broken record to you folks, but it's an API issue. Bing, bing, bing. Any memories of maybe another social platform talking about APIs? I don't know. Elon Musk, Twitter, we'll come to that one. You stay tuned. Yes. Rumor on the street is that Reddit's trying to go public or, make a lot of money later on this year, and they're trying to sweeten the books. And some would say they don't want the third-party market. So if you're like me, I got my wonderful mobile device here, and my favorite Reddit client is not the piece of crap Reddit client that they put out, which is horrible. No, it's Apollo. And so there are multiple authors of multiple third-party apps out there like Apollo that are actually saying, we can't afford this API. According to the actual author of the Apollo app, for him to suddenly support all the API calls at the price that Reddit is suggesting is going to cost him $20 million a year. And even with his broad base, he simply doesn't see a business model there where he can make any money. Go figure. When you're not spending $20 million a year and then suddenly you are spending $20 million a year, that's called an overhead cost that it's hard to tolerate. And as such, he's actually said as of June 30th, he's killing the app. It is gone. So ironically, LinkedIn News this morning, if you look at it here, talks about how there's over 6,000 or 7,000 communities that went dark yesterday and are dark today, a 48-hour protest. What that means is they've gone private. So if you go to their account, their subreddit, you can't see it. And this is all in protest. Many subreddits are going dark indefinitely. Subreddits like, iPhone as an example, but there's many, many, many going dark indefinitely. And this is a protest until the CEO of Reddit, Steve Huffman, actually relents on the API pricing. So now you're going to say, what does that mean? Well, that means is they could theoretically kick those moderators out. Remember, these are volunteer positions, and replace them with somebody new. But if they do that, they're going to have a hard time because it's a tight community. So it's kind of like scab workers. You don't always get the best quality when you do that. So we're going to sit here and stay tuned. Don't know if you saw it. What Steve Huffman did last Friday was he had an Ask Me Anything. And this is a classic case of what not to do. He had thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of comments, and he ignored all of them, only answered a handful. He actually accused the author of Apollo of actually lying on what was said and holding him for ransom as hostage, and saying he completely misrepresented what they're doing. And in fact, what happened was the author of Apollo had recorded the conversations they have with him. He's based in Canada, and that's one party permission. So he's one party. So he legally recorded the conversations and then he posted them. So he was able to actually say, no, I didn't. I did not. And the whole community saw that, in fact, the CEO of Reddit may have misrepresented or may have a biased point of view of what actually transpired. But there was the call recording. So that's crazy when you see that happening right there. So it's and the other part was they were saying that we've made ourselves available to answer any of these questions, pricing, whatever, and we want to work with you. And of course, all the app developers said, no, here's all the correspondences where we reached out to you and nobody's gotten back to us. So here we are. You have David and Goliath, if you want to talk about that, where physically everybody is fighting. And that, my friend, is why you have a massive protest. Yes, I love it, Trevor. A CEO with a biased point of view? Never. I can't. And of course, not Emmerich. Emmerich is Agorapulse, the CEO. He's a rock star. I like him. He does have bias sometimes, but I think he's just biased towards the great content we're producing here. Wouldn't you? That's why you should go subscribe on YouTube. And I'm doing that big shout out for Nathaniel. Guess what? I went over my 5 minutes, but it was just too juicy not to. So we're going to reset the clock and we're going to still stick within the 15-minute window. So we're going to start. We're going to go to the very next conversation. What do you think that next conversation is? Any ideas? Any guesses? All right, we're going to start the clock. Here we go. Let me bring myself back full screen so you don't have to see that wonderful thing. So, okay, the next conversation. Oh, and I'm supposed to use these wonderful banners. All right. So if we did the Reddit one, the next conversation is all about Twitter. And guess what? It's more API pricing. This is the theme going on. Now, of course, in Elon's case, he's trying to justify the 40 odd billion, whatever it was he spent for the actual app. So he's trying to get money back. The problem is he's gone against many of the things he said he was going to do. He promised free speech. He gave people mockery when he was not the owner, said, I'm going to do this. And now you're seeing nonstop where physically he's not necessarily doing the free speech. He's telling people who they should vote for. And in fact, in the hearings recently in Washington, I think it was this week, his own lawyers admitted that the previous Twitter ownership did not actually bias any of their algorithms towards the government. His own lawyers said that in a court of law because they had to tell the truth. So that's why so many of the advertisers have left, and that's why they need money. And that's what brings us to their whole API pricing. So let me go and bring up, I don't know if you've seen this TechCrunch article. If not, let me just bring it up here. It's a great article. It's like everything you need to know from layoffs to verification. And it's a chronology, it's a timeline. So just kind of give some color before we get to the actual API, right? You can see it just goes on and on, where we got, what happened in May and what's going on in June. Of course, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a new CEO at Twitter. So that's Linda Yaccarino. She comes from NBC Universal, where she ran all the advertising there. So a good fit for her. We're going to see what happens there. And then, of course, Elon will own all the product, as he kind of does with all the other organizations he runs. But this just goes through single thing from the Twitter Blue issues to, if you want to advertise, you have to have their corporate Twitter Blue account, which is $1,000 a month, to all of the actual technical user challenges they've had keeping the system up, to the recent Ron DeSantis launch, where it just died and they had massive technical issues. They couldn't handle the volume, randomly logging user outs, and legacy blue checks reappearing without no notification, getting yelled at by the EU on disinformation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But the whole API thing is what I wanted to talk about now. So just like with Reddit, Twitter's changed their API pricing. For many people, it was free, academia, etc., or they might spend $100 a month. Others maybe $500 a month. But ballpark, you get the idea. The prices varied, but that was the pricing. And then they said, nay, we're going to crank up the pricing, and at the same time, we're going to let go of 90% of all of our staff, because we don't want anybody to be responsive to you, kind of like what they just accused the Reddit CEO and Reddit doing, of not being responsive, despite their protestations that they were responsive. So what are they talking about here? Check this out when I share this. So this is a blog article that we issued. You can find it on the agorapulse.com blog under resources. We were impacted. Every single social media management tool out there in the world is being impacted by the Twitter API pricing. Because imagine, like for example, I think our entry level pricing is roughly what, $149 a month, if you will, if you want all the bells and whistles. But all of a sudden, when the pricing changes, you didn't build that into your profits, your overhead costs. So how much did it change? Well, in this, we shared the pricing changed. A small package, which allows the vendor to manage up to 5,000 Twitter accounts, went up to $42,000 a month. All right. The medium cost roughly $125,000 a month. And then the large cost roughly $2.5 million a year, $210,000 a month. So you got the author of Apollo saying, I'm going to spend $20 million to support all my API calls. And then you've got, of course, Reddit saying, well, your API calls are not structured properly. And they're saying, give us help. Tell us how to lower our calls so that we can actually be a good third-party app. Help us reduce that. And they say, well, that's not our responsibility. Well, guess what? It's deja vu all over again on Twitter. The exact same thing is happening. For us at Agorapulse and every other social media tool out there, whether it's a Hootsuite or a Loonly or whatever you're using, this is reality. So what happens when all of a sudden the API charges go through the roof and you really can't get much help or much guidance from the actual API owner, in this case, Twitter, or in the other case, Reddit? What happens? Well, you have to physically work like just a bastard to reduce the API calls. And that means stupid things, like instead of maybe checking Twitter every 5 minutes to see if you have any new messages waiting, well, maybe we're going to check every 30 minutes or every 60 minutes now. So it's not nearly as real time, but that has a 6-time or a 12-time impact on the number of API calls for every single API call for every single account. So you get the idea. And we managed to bring our API calls down dramatically, but even still at this point in time, we thought we were going to have to pay the large. So suddenly having $210,000 a month, when in reality, we got it down to at least down to the medium. So we have incurred an additional fee of $125,000 a month. So what does that mean? That means we have to actually, if you want the full access to Twitter, we have to charge you more. And we're not the only vendor doing that, because we just simply can't afford that. We're a small company. That's what's happening to Twitter API. So are you going to use Twitter natively? Are you going to use a third-party tool? Are you going to spend more money? Cause and effect with the whole API situation. It's a day of Reddit, it's a day of Twitter, it's a day of APIs, and everybody's trying to make money and get profitable. All right, I am totally messing up my timing. We're going to go to the very next thing I want to talk about, which is Blue Sky. You know about Blue Sky, right? So what's Blue Sky? If you don't know, Blue Sky is a Twitter alternative brought to you by Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey, formerly founder of Twitter. It's invite only. You've probably heard of this by now. So if you want to go to Blue Sky, you can check it out. Just Google it. You can sign up for it and you can actually get on the list. So that's Blue Sky. I love Rand. Time to leave Twitter. I agree with you. I'm on Mastodon and I'm liking it, but I'm still getting my head around it. And it's not Twitter. And the big problem is when you get onto it, is that you actually, like, I've got almost 20,000 people on Twitter. How do I just want to leave 20,000 people? And that's the hook. That's what keeps them there. Guess what? Hold on. This gets interesting. Blue Sky, invite only. They've got a lot of VIPs on there, a lot of influencer, AOCs on there. Anything you put out there is called a skeet instead of a tweet. It's a Blue Sky, tweet, skeet. There you go. You can go. It's invite only. You can get on the wait list. But why it's so popular It's because it's decentralized. So no one person can ever own it. So you can have all these different servers, and if one server goes down, there's all these other servers. That's what they like about it. But the problem with a Mastodon and the problem with a Blue Sky is that what if Twitter 2.0 happens and they decide that you want to go somewhere else? You can't bring those people with you. Guess what? Meta is in the house, and they have a Twitter competitor that everybody's saying is looking fire. Check it out. We don't know the name. All we know is it's called Project 92. And a couple cool things about this. You can bring all of your Instagram setup and people across with you. So if you're big on Instagram, you don't lose anybody. All your photos, everything comes across with you. But what's even more interesting is that they're actually part of, let me get the right name here. I'm going to get it wrong here. There we go. The Activity Pub. And the Activity Pub is an actual, it's an industry network that says that if you're part of the Activity Pub, you can go to a different platform and bring everybody with you. So you're never, ever, ever, ever locked in. So would you go to Blue Sky or would you go to Project P92? I'm more inclined to go to Project P92. But the highlights, you can post text updates up to 500 characters. You can attach your links, photos, videos to the 5-minute song. You can engage with likes, replies, and reposts. Basically, this is kind of like what Twitter should have been, but it gives you some security for the future. Okay, so how am I doing here? I'm 1 minute over. Teresa, the wonderful head of my demand gen, who organizes all these things, and Rui, her partner in crime, are going to yell at me because we're supposed to be a 15-minute promise, and I did it for 16 minutes. I am so sorry. But we don't know when this Twitter killer from Meta is coming up. But can you imagine if you're a Meta and also you got Facebook, Instagram, and Project P92, you are like dominating. That could be interesting, could be scary. We're going to wait and find out, but they're going to have a hell of a lot easier time getting people on board than, say, a Blue Sky would because it's brand new, or even a Mastodon would, which is it's way out there. Okay, so now we are into the Q&A session. So bring me your questions, send them here. In the meantime, I'm going to go back into the comments. They're great. I'm loving all this engagement, and we're going to actually talk about what you guys are saying. So here we go. So Teresa says Emmerich is amazing. She's saying that because she wants to make sure she gets a pay raise. We got Steve McDonald saying, why did he spend so much on Twitter? He is not an Elon fan. And, you know, I will not buy a Tesla. I like the car. I will not buy it because I do disagree with so much of what he does. I do not like his hypocrisy. This is Daryl speaking, not Agorapulse. You know, he promised free speech, but then you went out there and did the exact same thing that you accused the previous owners of doing. It's become a really tough place. Now, here's to hang out in. I'll be honest with you, because, you know, I don't care what they say, the algorithms are biased now, but whatever. I'm not going down that road. What I am going to say to you is this. It's an interesting place to be to figure out where do I go from here. That's why I'm playing with Mastodon. Have you tried any other app? If you were to leave Twitter, where would you go? All right. And I love Rayanne's response to Steve saying, because he's a narcissist. And by the way, what's really interesting about Twitter and him being a narcissist is he's lost all his advertisers, a huge, huge chunk of it. But I was recently at an event put on by GTM Partners. Check them out, gtmpartners.com. They're like the next Serious Decisions, the next Topo. You're going to love them, sales and marketing revenue people who are industry analysts. And they're all about go-to-market. They're the original authors of Go-to-Market. You see the book Move, written by Brian Brown and Sangram Vajre. So I was at an event, and there's a bunch of CMOs, and they were sharing about Twitter. And with the feedback I heard from everybody there was, nobody's advertising on it. But if you are advertising on it, they are over-delivering because they are so hungry to have advertisers come back. So marketers, maybe despite maybe any moral or ethical objections you might have about Elon and Twitter, maybe now is the time to get back in there and advertise and at least try it and see if it's more affordable and more productive. Teresa has given us a link to the blog post for the Twitter price increase. Again, don't be shy. Go check that out. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Teresa. All right, we got Trevor here. The business I was working for in 2013 was basically put out of business when Facebook shut down various functions of its API. So this is an old rinse and repeat record. I believe I totally have been there. We've seen that so much. Lots of agreement going on. Yelling commencing by Teresa. I love this. I love yelling commencing. Got to put that up there. Yelling commencing. That's fantastic. Okay. Richard Bronson should launch a social channel. I love that. The challenge with Richard, or maybe the opportunity, is he's got time now because he's killed his outer space travel project, if I recall. So he's got a few extra minutes on his hand. So what else we got? Should marketers stay away from Twitter? That's the golden question. I don't know what the answer is, but there it is. Daniel Schmada is on a whole other level. I got to get that comment up there. Daniel, you rock. Daniel is just a rock star. Have you checked him out? His content is killer. This man is a marketer extraordinaire. I love Daniel. He is, and he's going to be on some of our content coming up on these 15.5. Stay tuned. He's already booked. You're going to love him. With a new cost for APIs, reduce the number of third-party social apps and return money back to the social platforms for manual posting. Who knows? I really don't know. That's a fantastic question, Aaron. But let's see if we can get an answer. Teresa's saying, I think so. So there we go. It is 21 minutes long. I'm again a minute over. So folks, I'm out of time here. I do want to come back and say, if you like everything you're seeing here today, there's two things you need to know. One, did you know that we have an actual private Slack channel? We do. Stay tuned. I'm going to share the link soon. This is the teaser. Don't go to that link unless it says just bit.ly. It's like, what is it? What's the link? We have a private Slack channel for our 15.5 people. It's in testing right now. We're going to go live imminently. We want you to join, carry on the conversations there. But in the meantime, if you like this, check out Agora Pulse, please. Free demos. Everything's free except maybe the Twitter add-on now. But we still have Twitter Lite. We still have Twitter Lite. We still give you some basic functionality, so we haven't completely ripped off the Band-Aid and caused you to start, bleeding out all over again. With that said, folks, I am done. I am out of here. My name is Daryl. I'm with Agora Pulse. Have an awesome day.